Today, I'm going to be talking to you guys about the craziest Discraft disc you've probably never heard of. Now, I'm sure everyone watching this has heard of the Innova Whippet, but have you heard of the Discraft Extreme? Probably not, because I don't think this was very popular, and obviously this one is extremely beat up, but I ended up getting it for $5. But I will tell you, this disc is definitely worth picking up if you can find one. So the flight numbers of this thing are 6, 3, plus 1, and then 4. And you're probably thinking to yourself, that's pretty much the Innova Whippet. But I will tell you, this thing is like board flat, and we're gonna throw it in a little bit so you can see how this thing flies. But this is extremely beat up, and this is also kind of like the ESP Star plastic back in the day. That's kind of what this is right here. And I actually like that this is kind of the ESP Star, more base plastic, because once this hits the ground, it doesn't skip, it doesn't move anywhere. It just pretty much stays exactly where it hits the ground. And that's honestly why I really like this disc. I've never been a huge Firebird or Raptor type of person, and this is actually a 6-speed, like I said, and it just feels more comfortable in my hand. And honestly, I don't really throw stuff that overstable for actual distance drives. This is purely a control driver, and it does its job really well. Let's go ahead and see how it flies. So I threw it a little bit flat, kind of turned it over a little bit to begin with, but I mean, that's what you normally do. You normally throw an overstable disc pretty hard, but you could see the ending. It really didn't want anything to do with distance or traveling or anything like that. Anyways, let's try a few more throws. All right, now we're in a more realistic situation for when I would actually use this disc. We've got about 5 to 10 mile per hour headwind. It kind of comes and goes, so hopefully it's coming at me when I'm throwing. And you know, I'm not feeling too confident. I'm about 300 to 330 feet away from the pin, but I kind of want to end up right at 300, so it's fine if I'm a little bit short. And I'm just gonna go ahead and throw this one sidearm, and I'm trying to throw it flat, kind of like I would throw a distance drive, but obviously, you know, this thing isn't for distance. So let's see how this thing flies. Hopefully we'll be able to see it in the headwind, in the sun. So it was probably really hard to see, and I'm gonna have a replay here of how that thing actually ended. We actually hit the baseball field. I actually didn't really like hold back or try to control the angle at all on my shot. Typically, I like to throw more touchy discs understable and have them like flip up and like stand. I just let that thing go flat, and in a headwind, it finished right and just died as soon as it hit the ground. That's exactly why I love this disc, right? I've never really been into Firebirds. This thing is not gonna skip off. It just hits the ground because it's that, you know, a little bit gummier, older plastic. All right, now we've got a bit of a crosswind left to right. So for backhand, I would assume this thing would just carry out. And since it's so beat up, you know, you wouldn't expect it to fight back. So we're gonna go ahead with backhand first, then we're gonna go with sidearm. So I'm gonna kind of throw like a roller angle and see what happens. So not the farthest shot, but I think it was a good illustration of how overstable this thing is. Any distance driver that I put on that angle is gonna hold it for a long time. And especially in the wind, this is a very helping wind. It's gonna keep going and maybe not even come back. That thing was fighting the entire time. It just still dive bombed out. Pretty awesome. I threw a roller angle with a backhand and it still fought out. That one's not too surprising in my opinion, but this one, we're gonna be throwing against the wind with a sidearm roller angle, and I wanna see what happens to it. This is like a shot you would never do, obviously. I just wanna see if it has time to fight out. I gotta pretend like I'm throwing like almost a sky roller. It's gotta be in the air, obviously, or it won't have time, but let's just see what happens here. Honestly, I was kind of expecting that flight. I mean, the wind is just gonna push it down anyway. And I put it on way more anhyzer than I did the backhand. As you can see here, I actually did throw an anhyzer with a sidearm in the same wind, and it did fight out. But we wanted to see the most ridiculous, you know, shot possible, and that was it. It didn't have enough time to fight out. Maybe if there was a Z version of it. Anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this disc review. That disc is actually in my bag currently, and I'm really liking it. I've had it for a while, and I just decided to pop it in, and I've been enjoying it. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.